Hello again and welcome to another edition of Southern Country. Hi, I'm Herb Southern and welcome to the show, my friends. On this show, I'm very happy to say I have world-renowned instrumentalist, world-renowned entertainer, Mr. Roy Clark. How you doing?
Bless your heart, Herb. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, boy. It's been a long time, but here we are again.
Well, the last time I was here, you were out of town.
Oh, yeah? Yeah. Oh, it's true. Last time I was here, we talked about 14 years ago, and let's see if we can catch up with some old times.
Okay.
All right. I read where it says, Roy Clark's musical ability combined with his quick wit, adoring smile, and genuine love for people is the recipe for one of American music's best entertainers. Is that true?
Well, that's about it. Yeah, that's just about nails it. Love of music, love of people, and want to share it. And bless their hearts for all these years. When they call my name, I peek out at the audience, and they're there again.
There they are.
Yeah.
God bless them.
You know, that bothered me for a long time.
Why? What happened?
I don't know. It just, like, if I saw a full house, full audience, I wondered if they knew who was there tonight. I said, did they know it's me, or did they think they were going to see somebody else?
Okay.
And then when they're there to see me, it makes you feel good. Okay. But you don't take it for granted. Okay. You know.
I read where Bob Hope called you the consummate entertainer. That's a compliment from...
Oh, I'll tell you what, we became, Bob and I became very close, dear friends through the years. He did so much for me in different charity things that I do, you know, golf tournaments and stuff. All I had to do was call him, and he was right there. And for him to say, consummate entertainer, somebody asked him that on camera. And so it's on film. And when he said that, you know, I said, ooh, you know, there's a lot of ways he can go. When he said that, it just, I'll never forget it.
It hit home, boy.
Yes,
he nailed it. He nailed it, too, I'll tell you. All right, it says, today you are looking for new opportunities on stage and record and on TV. What's left for Roy Clark to do?
Well, spending more time in records and producing, promoting, and doing things other than concerts. You know, last year we did 220 days, and that's just too many. Yeah, as I say on stage, doesn't leave you a whole lot of time to cut the grass at home. So, so I want to get involved. You can never get out of music. No, you know, once you're in it, you're in it. It's part of you. But I want to slow down the touring a little and spend more time producing records and doing some things, maybe even a movie, you know, a dramatic movie, not playing the life of a guitar player. Be
in the movie yourself?
Yes.
Take a part, okay.
Yes.
Or other than a musician?
Right.
I see.
You know, it'd be no challenge to play the part of a guitar player. That's what I am.
That's it. You're doing it every day.
Yeah.
240 nights last year, you know. You
really
did that. Hey, you once said music can bridge continents, and you proved it many times over and over and over. You played everywhere in the world already.
I tell you, it's to go to the Far East, all over Europe, and then to go back when the Iron Curtain was still up.
You did that.
First time we went to the Soviet Union, then 1976. Right. Then we went to Bulgaria, and we went to a lot of countries that were really under communist rule, but we didn't talk politics. We came to present our country music.
That's it, talk music.
So it was people to people. And they said they found no threat in us.
How did they understand what you were singing? You know, language barrier.
I had a great interpreter.
Okay.
In fact, I had a young man who had studied American cinematography.
Okay.
So he was a little Americanized in a way. And after we got comfortable, I would start introducing, you know, with all the stuff that I do on stage, you know, I never know what I'm going to say.
Absolutely.
But after we got comfortable with each other, then I started throwing him little digs, you know. His eyes would get big. Yeah. And then some of the audience understood English, so they would laugh. Yeah. Excuse me.
That's fine.
So when, then he would interpret it, and one of the guys from the consulate, the American consulate, said, this guy is incredible. He is taking your American slang and putting it into Russian slang.
He's good, huh?
Yeah, he was absolutely super. So it really got to where every night was just a complete joy for me.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you, to put slang into another language, that's...
it is.
Gotta be good.
Yeah.
Hey, you did so many firsts in your life. You were the first country artist, one of the first country artists to cross over to the pop charts. What was when you felt Branson calling, you went out there?
You know, I'd heard about Branson forever and ever. In fact, my band leader at the time had gone to Branson on his honeymoon. And I would hear Branson come up, and they'd say, Branson this, Branson. Have you ever been to Branson? No. You should go to Branson. And I'd say, what is Branson?
Yeah.
They said, it's hard to explain. And then somebody said, you know, about the closest we can get to it, it's almost like a Las Vegas without gambling. I said, okay. But still, you have to go. So we went out there, and it was like 3 or 4 family shows that had theaters. And, but they didn't have any theaters that were booking internationally known artists. So a partner and I got together, and he says, you know, if we put up the Roy Clark Celebrity Theater, and when you're not there, we'll book in other, you know, great talent. Glenn Campbell, Loretta Lynn, Mickey Gilley, Jim Stafford, Mel Tillis, and Boxcar Willie, and they all came out, got to looking around and said, why are we working for Roy Clark? Let's build a theater of our own.
He said they put up put up theaters for themselves.
So they started crediting me with you know, starting this trend of all these theaters coming to town.
Wow, that goes back to 1983.
That's right, yeah.
You starred in the longest running syndicated TV series in history. Of course, we're talking to Hee Haw.
Yeah.
You were there from day one?
I was there from even pre-day one.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing a guest on the Jonathan Winters show.
Oh, I'm sure he was
And
good.
the producers of Jonathan Winters' show was Frank Pepiot and John Aylesworth, who came to me, both Canadians. They came to me and said they were getting ready to do a show not too unlike Laugh-In, only it would be country. And asked me if I would be interested in being a co-host. And I said yes, because you say yes to everything in this business, you know.
Sure.
A lot of it never happens.
Right.
But that was in September of 1968. January, they called, my manager called me and says, they just called and they're ready to go with that show. I said, what show? They said, well, they're calling it Hee Haw. I said, they're calling what Hee Haw? And they said, well, that's just a working title. By the time we get on the air, they'll probably change it and come up with something a little better. Looking back on it, what could be better than Hee Haw?
That nailed that one too.
It did. Yeah,
that was a great show. I watched it probably for the 25 years you guys were on. You know.
I've had people walk up and say, I grew up watching you on Hee Haw.
And I'll tell you, went through generations.
Yes.
You know.
3 generations right off: the grandparents, parents, and kids.
Yep. You know, I've been doing my radio show for 27 years. And it's amazing that a friend of mine used to come and visit me with his little kid who was 3 years old. Now he's 26, and he's got himself kids already, you know?
Yeah.
So I went through 3 generations with the radio show.
Sure did.
Hard to believe, you know?
It is hard.
You sit there so long, all these years, and week after week you do the show, and 3 generations already.
That's right.
You know, I know what you're saying when you're 3 generations. You played so many famous halls, like Carnegie Hall, just to name, you know, New York and Madison Square Garden. You played around the world in some famous places.
We did. I guess I played the Madison Square Garden, played Carnegie Hall, and I guess of all of them that I've played, and it almost ranks right up, they are equal, is the Ryman, original Ryman.
Mother Church of
country music. The Mother Church of country music. And Carnegie Hall.
Right.
Because to stand in either one of those places and feel the vibes of all the great performers that have been on that stage,
power, man.
It's humbling.
It's power.
Yes, it is.
Power goes through your body when you stand in that circle there and saying, Hank Williams stood here, Cowboy Copa stood here, Minnie Pearl. You knew everybody. You know, all
and now what am I going to do? I mean, that's a burden.
That's a burden. Well, I'll tell you, that's something. But you do a great job. Hey, you wrote an autobiography, too, already. My Life in Spite of Myself, huh?
Yeah, and that started off as a working title, and I couldn't come up with anything any better, because a lot of the great things that have happened to me have been because of people I've made friends with through the years. So in spite of my efforts, or in spite of all I put into it, I've had a pretty good career.
Yes. You have an exciting career, man.
So that's where in spite of myself,
that's where it comes
my
from,
life.
Huh? You were the first country artist to host the Tonight Show, sitting in for Johnny Carson. Tell me how it felt to sit in that hot seat.
You just said it with the hot seat. I was a guest on it forever, you know, and then Johnny and I developed this great rapport. We had a great friendship. Still do. I don't get a chance to see him because he doesn't get out in public all that much. But he used to take off on Mondays and have a guest host. Well, it come around that Fred DeCordova, the producer, asked me or told me they'd like to have me host that Monday night. So I did. And the first guest I had...
That's my next question. Who was he?
Bob Hope. And at this point, I didn't know Bob.
Right.
And I've got to have him come out, and what am I going to ask Bob Hope that hasn't been asked 10,000 times?
You got, what was your question? What did you ask? What did you say?
It was something like, duh. I mean, it was...
Bob was cool, though.
But he was so great.
Yeah.
He saw that I was a little, nervous and ill at ease. So he jumped in and started helping, and it came off all right.
Right.
I eventually went back and did it several more times on a one night. Then I did it 2 or 3 weeks in a row.
Wow.
Took the whole week.
Wow.
And had a great rapport with the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
They made it available when I had a new record release. Anytime that I had a record coming out, just give them a call, come on, and they'd love to be part of it in case it became a big hit record. The Tonight Show could say, hey.
We debuted it.
They debuted it on that show.
Yeah, that had to be some honor to sit for Johnny Carson, though.
It's the hardest. I call that a non-performing performing job.
Is it?
Because you have to get, it's like what you're doing now, is to get me to talk.
Yeah.
And, there's been a lot of them on there, great talents and things, and I was wary of that get on, and next thing you know, they talk for 20 minutes, and the guest is standing there, waiting to jump in.
Who was the hardest person you ever had to talk to on that
One
show?
of my dearest friends.
No kidding.
David Huddleston is his name. He's an actor.
Okay.
And he had a series on NBC. Mm-hmm. So that's how we could work it out that he could be on the show. And I called, because he's a funny guy, been in show business all his life. He was in the Blazing Saddles.
Oh, yeah, Mel Brooks. Sure.
Yeah, well, he was one of the big stars in that. And but that night, I knew I was in trouble. Because when I introduced him, he had a show called His Honor, where he played he was the mayor of a small town, His Honor. And so when I introduced him, and the curtains opened up, here he stands with a long cigar, a 3-piece suit with a vest and a tie, and I'm so used to seeing him in casual clothes, and he took a bow, came over and shook my hand, and he had this glassy look in his eye. And he's my dearest friend and the worst guest I ever had.
In what way? Did he not answer?
He just wasn't. I'd ask him a question. I said, well, we went out to dinner the other night and then went up to Jimmy Cagney's house, the great actor. And I said, we had a good time, didn't we, David? He said, yes. Swell. and
That's tough. That is so tough, isn't it?
Oh, yes, and he just was so straight.
Yep.
I couldn't get him to joke. I couldn't get him to laugh. And I couldn't believe it. Believe me, he heard about it when it was over.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, the yes and no answers are tough people to talk to.
Yeah. You ask a question, they say, yeah. Yeah, what?
Well, yeah, what? Where are you supposed to jump from there,
Exactly.
Hey, being the player that you are, musically speaking, all the string instruments, every string instrument. You play some wind instruments, you play the accordion, the piano. Is that where the phrase comes from, picking and grinning? Where's that picking and grinning come from?
I don't know. That, Herb, that came...
with Hee Haw?
With Hee Haw. When we were on the show, they were trying to figure out different sets and different situations where the people could be together. Mm-hmm. And so at first when we did it, and I was just reminded the other day, it was just Buck and I.
Right.
And he'd said, I'm a picking, and I'd said, I'm a grinning. Right. And we did the routine. And we'd stop playing, tell a joke, go back to playing. But that evolved into that they added the whole cast. And so that's when we all sat around. Buck and I was in the front.
I remember.
Same format, except we added the cast in there. So that's where it started, picking and grinning. Which is, you know, you've heard that expression all your life.
Oh, yeah, for 25 years.
Yeah.
Since 1969, I heard that expression. Your success, I read, where it did not come right away. You were 30 before you hit major success. You had such a life before 30. You know, you did so much before 30. What do you mean by major success at 30?
Well, I spent 10 years playing around Washington, D.C.
Yes, you were raised there in that area.
That's right. That's where I started playing music. So I played local radio, then I played local television, and then when I became of age, I started playing the different nightclubs around. And then it dawned on me that that was in the late 50s. Dawned on me that I was playing music on stage with some guys that were twice my age, because I was a kid.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And I wondered, because there's no security for a musician,
No.
you know, just doing nightclub work. When he's through playing, his income stops.
That's right.
And I said, is this where I'm going to wind up? Just, you know, when I'm too old to step up on the 2-foot riser and will not be able to play anymore. So that was in the latter part of 1950. 1960, I decided Wanda Jackson came to town.
Okay. Washington, D.C. area.
Yes.
Right.
And she needed a guitar player.
There you go.
She was going into Las Vegas, had to form a band, needed a front man and guitar player. So she hit me at the right time. I said, this is my chance to go out and see what else is happening in the world and see if I have enough talent to build a career.
Up until then, you basically played East Coast.
This East Coast,
Coast,
I played all
yeah.
through Pennsylvania.
Right.
You know, they had these firemen's carnivals and
sure.
all these, a lot of play. You could work 7 nights a week.
No, sure.
You know, but it was the same thing, and after 10 years,
It's boring, right?
it wasn't getting any bigger, and I realized that this cannot go on forever.
Wanda was a big name in 1960.
Oh, yeah, she was.
Yeah.
The big original rockabilly.
That-
She was a female Elvis
What?
Presley.
You get out. I remember that part of her, yeah?
Yeah.
Huh?
She used to come out and shimmy and shake.
Yeah.
One of her big records was Fujiyama Mama.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, look it up.
I
You'll
will.
get a kick out of it.
Fujiyama Mama. I've got to look for that. All right. You believe in success. You don't believe in pushing success, I read. It just happens. Am I
You have
correct in
to be
saying that?
ready for it.
Oh,
And I mean, you can't just turn away from it.
no, of course.
That has to be your aim. Don't worry about you're not going to perform if you don't get paid. A lot of times I couldn't tell you how many concerts that I did and performances I did for no money.
Right.
So I could be seen by different promoters,
Right.
different television producers and things, and that's what led to me. You know, I would work with these different producers and things. They would move on to another TV show, and one would say, you know, we need somebody. How about that kid, what was his name, Clark? He would fit into this spot. Because I was easy to get along with, and I always went in and did whatever it took
To get the job
to
done.
make the show better.
Right.
You know, if there was a ballad singer on the show, I wouldn't sing a ballad.
Right.
I'd do an instrumental.
Sure.
If Chet Atkins was on the show, I'd
would
do
sing.
some little crazy little song, you know, a little comedy and stuff. And they appreciated that.
When you won that banjo contest, you went to. That's when you first played the Mother Church.
That's right. That
Back
was in
when you were
1951.
Back when you were what? Not quite. You weren't 20 yet.
Oh, Lord, no. I was,
you
what,
were
17?
17, 18, yeah.
Yeah. And
You got big exposure there, boy.
oh, that was great. There was a promoter there from the Grand Ole Opry, A.V. Bamford, and he booked probably half of the big acts on the Grand Ole Opry. And the winner of that contest got $500 and a trip to Nashville
Wow.
to work on these show dates that A.V. Bamford booked.
Right.
And I always felt guilty about that because I won $500 when I won the banjo contest, and I took the $500 and went down and bought me a guitar. I always felt like I hurt the banjo's feelings.
Well, but you've been good to the banjo over the years, though. You got to perform with a lot of legends, and you toured with a lot of legends in those days, too. Hank Williams and Grandpa Jones, who later joined down Hee Haw, you know?
Oh, that was such
That had
a,
to be
with Grandpa. Grandpa was the first star I ever worked with when I was 15 years old.
Right, sure, I remember that.
And I worked, we went up to upstate New York. I think we played Reading, Pennsylvania on the way up, and played Baltimore. And that was my first taste. And that just fed me.
Yeah,
you know, this, I was more and more saying, this is what I want to do. And Grandpa gave me his seal of approval. He said, you did uncommonly well.
That was his expression?
Oh, yeah. And I never forgot it. You know, I just swole up like a toad.
He was great.
Oh, such an entertainer. And then when, I guess it was about a year later, I was 16 or so, that we played the Hippodrome Theater in Baltimore for 2 weeks. And this is back in the days where they would do a stage show and do a movie, then another stage show. And we did 3 shows a day for 2 weeks, 7 days a week.
That's working.
Yes. And what we did is we opened the show playing square dance music and some square dancers. Now, the star of the show was Hank Williams Sr. And Lazy Jim Day was on it. Annie Lou and Danny was on it. Cowboy Copas was on it.
You were with the top echelon of country music, man.
And the Duke of Paducah.
Yeah, Duke of Paducah, sure.
And every day, 3 times a day, after we opened the show, I run around backstage out into the theater and sit and watch. And absorbed all of this talent.
You couldn't get better teachers.
No. Sit as close to Hank Williams Sr. as we're sitting now.
He was something else, wasn't he?
Oh, God. It's hard to explain what he had. He had...
magic.
He had a magic that came out of him. All he did was stand and sing. But there was something that came out of him that was mesmerizing.
And it came out of his pencil, too.
Oh, it did,
He wrote. He was a songwriter, boy.
Yes, sir.
How was it working with Red Foley and Ernest Tubb? They had to be great people, too.
Well, you know, Red and I picked, Red and Ernest both. And it's hard to imagine these people that I idolized so much as I was growing up later became close, dear friends.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and Red Foley, I'll never forget, he would always call me Old Joe Clark. Every time we'd meet each other, he'd say, how you doing, Old Joe Clark?
Yeah.
And then I recorded an album with Ernest.
Did you?
Ernest Tubb. He had 2 albums out that he had guest people on the album with him. Willie Nelson, about everybody in the business.
I have a double CD of his that has always Ernest Tubb and Friends.
Okay, look on it and you'll find me.
Probably there.
Yeah.
It's a double CD. How was it working with Jimmy Dean?
Well, he was great, and Jimmy was really responsible for me getting my first big break.
Okay.
He was the first one I ever worked with back in D.C. That showed me there is more to entertaining and music than just getting up and playing night after night.
In what way?
There's a business side to it.
Oh, okay.
There is a goal-setting side to it. There is something that you're aiming to do to it. And when the rest of us, when we got off at night after playing a show date, we may go out and, go have a couple drinks with some friends or something. Jimmy may stay 10, 15 minutes. He was home, getting his rest. Up the next morning, bright and early, on the phone, calling all these people that would later on hurt him. I mean, that would help him.
He knew what to do.
Yes, he did.
He did know what to do. I read where you played 345 straight nights.
That was the first. After Wanda, when Wanda disbanded.
Yeah, right after Wanda.
That's when, through her, I met my manager, Jim Halsey.
Yeah.
And he was the first one that said, I think you have a great career, and I'd like to be part of it.
Yeah, Jim Halsey's a big name.
There had been other people who had said, boy, you're going to be something. You're going to be a big star, kid. You really, but then they'd walk off, and that's the last I'd hear.
That's it.
And then I got to thinking there's something wrong with me. But Halsey said, I'd like to be part of it. So the first year that I was out, my wife and I, her mother took care of the kids.
Right.
And we went out, and we were gone 345 days.
Where did you play for 300? All one-night gigs?
Most of them were places I had played with Wanda.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I met. In fact, I even went back to Las Vegas on my own.
Right,
I had
later
been there
on.
with her, and they liked what they saw in me, so when she disbanded, then I went back into there.
In 1962, you went back to Vegas.